Well, next candidate I'm talking to is Kevin Oliphant-Smith, who's standing for Douglas North. And I look up like that because I'm just checking. You did come out in 2019 to say you were going to stand in this general election in Douglas East.
Yep.
You then stood the by-election in Douglas South. What's going on?
So originally I announced back in, I think it was 2019, Douglas East. At the time that's where I was living, and it seemed logical to stand for that area. That was also the area I previously stood in the council, Douglas Council election 2016, where I was elected and stayed for a short time in Douglas Council. I'm now living in North Douglas North, so it makes sense to live in the area that I'm going to be representing.
And Douglas South, you were there, or that you just hopping over borders at that stage? Or
Yeah, when the Douglas South by-election came up, that was obviously unknown that was going to happen.
Yeah.
I lived previously in that area for 13 years, and I was asked by a lot of people to stand in that area. Felt like I knew the area quite well, so I decided to take a hit at it.
How many times have you stood now in total, Jim? Because you have
Keys election, only one by-election.
Because it seems like you're coming up a lot. It's almost like you're turning up for the party almost. What is driving you? What makes you think you're ready to do this? Because you did the Douglas Council and it didn't work out for you. You gave just personal reasons. I don't know what that means.
Well, yeah, there was a lot of things in council. I felt like I was kind of being held back in council. There was things I was trying to get involved in, things that I was already involved in before I got elected, national issues, and I was getting slapped on the wrist for attending meetings of in Tynwald and things like that because I was.
But this is going to be harder, isn't it? This is going to be the national government.
This is going to be better because I've got a bigger scope of things that I can actually get involved in. And
okay, so if you got in, you wouldn't be resigning from it if you got
absolutely
upset.
not. No,
right.
No.
You're studying independent. Yep. So when you go on the door knocking bit, what is your sort of main point you're making? Points you're making?
So again, I'm standing for the same reason because I'm a resident as well. So my thing would be, I personally don't feel represented in Keys. I think it's very much them and us type of a feeling. I think there's a huge disconnection between the public, the voters, and the politicians. The politicians has become a very dirty word now. It's up there with drug dealer. When people say to me, "Oh, politician," I cringe, because I see the role as more of a community worker. Really, you're there to work on behalf of the community, to represent the community, and not represent yourself and your own interests. And I feel that's what's currently happening.
So the incumbents that you're not impressed with, are you? Is that what you're saying? You don't think they're doing a good job?
No.
Right. Obviously, getting in this time, if you got in, would you be interested in being part of government, or would you see yourself as being opposition? How do you view it? Yeah,
I'm not interested in becoming a minister or a chief minister. I think every candidate should put that out there, what their interests are. Mm-hmm. To be fully transparent with the voter. If a committee came up, a department member, again, it would depend on who was the minister of that department, and if I felt I could give something to that department and work with that minister.
Well, where would you like to go?
It's always pretty much been the same. I'm quite passionate about health.
Mm-hmm.
Although at the moment, of course, Manx Care has just taken over that. I've spoken to Manx Care recently, and they seem to be doing a good job at the moment. They're talking to people on the ground, the doctors, nurses. The doctors and nurses feel like they're being listened to. And I think as long as that continues, we will get somewhere with that.
Mm-hmm. Clearly you got those views, but I'm just trying to think of how you express this. You don't want an actual job then as a minister. You don't want to be part of government, but you're quite happy to be on one of the a member. I'd
like to give some input to improve those departments if I felt I could. So if I was offered something that I didn't feel I had any background in or any skills in or knowledge, then I wouldn't take it, of course, because I'd just be a waste of time. But the reason I don't want to be a minister is because once you become a minister, you represent the government. You stop representing your constituent, in my opinion.
How do you think the government's done? I mean, you're not impressed with the Douglas North people there at the minute, but what about government? How do you think they've done? And obviously the lockdown and all those sort of things.
It's very dodgy because, of course, everyone's looking at what they've done with COVID, and some things they've done with COVID they've done quite well. But I think that's a one-off, hopefully. You've got to look at everything else that they promised they would do when they first got elected 5 years ago. And in my opinion, as usual, they've sat on their hands for the last 4 years. The last year they've gone, we've got to get elected again. let's try and make it look as if we've done something, and they've rushed things through.
So what are you going to promise? What have you got? Anything particular you got in mind you want to put forward?
Well, yeah, I mean, I've got a lot of things. There's housing, big housing issues on the Isle of Man, as we know. I would like to see something brought in on the Isle of Man similar to Jersey, actually.
Okay, the open and closed things. So you do two different markets.
No. So in Jersey, when you apply to buy a property, firstly you have to be a resident, and you have to say why you want to buy the property and what it's going to be used for.
That's a closed market, and they've got the open market, which is for people to come in.
So it's more restricted. I think if we sort of went down that road now, we would protect our island from. We've already seen the house prices are going through the roof.
So you would stop people selling a house for too much money? You'd actually cap what people could sell their houses for?
No, it wouldn't be that. It would be more people that would be buying would have to say, yes, we're moving to the Isle of Man, we're going to live on the Isle of Man. The Isle of Man is going to be our sole address, and we're going to contribute to the tax on the Isle of Man.
But they could buy as many houses as they want?
Not for renting out, no.
So you would put some limitations on that?
That would have to be monitored separately.
How many could they have?
Again, there'd have to be some committee set up to see what percentage we needed at that time of rental properties for our population. Mm-hmm. But it couldn't just be, like it is at the moment, a free-for-all. Let's go and buy, like they're building houses at the moment, all these new builds, putting them up for 440,000. No first-time buyer can afford that.
But isn't this the market just doing what it does? I mean, it's the supply and demand, isn't it? I mean,
they're
selling them. Are they not selling them? I don't know. I mean,
they're selling them to investors.
Right.
And then they're being rented out for 12, 15, 16,000, £1,600 a month.
I think I understand. With Jersey, they're building a massive complex, and they're stopping outsiders buying that block completely because of that very thing.
Yeah.
So that's what.
So it's driving out the local residents from being able to, one, get on the property ladder, and two, even being able to afford to rent. I mean, the rental prices, especially since COVID, have gone through the roof, and that is the main source of poverty on the Isle of Man.
Mm-hmm. Are you a renter or a buyer? I mean, does it matter?
I'm a renter.
So you're really at the coalface on this thing?
Yeah.
And you frustrated yourself then about not being able to buy it?
Yeah, I'll be completely honest. For me to be able to rent the house I'm in, I had to pay a year's rent up front to get that.
Mm. Can I go back to Douglas North items? And what's the big local item on the agenda? I mean, housing being everywhere. Anything particular for your particular constituencies?
So local north, I mean, community policing is a big one. Mm-hmm. Of course, a few years ago, I think it was 2019 or 18, they closed down Williston Police House up there, the little police station they had. And it seems to me, very much the feeling on the doorstep is the police are concentrated on town central, and the outer areas of Douglas aren't really, you don't see them very often up there unless something happens. We've also had like a little spite of petty thieves. So a lot of things recently is bicycles being stolen. Mm-hmm. Now, funnily enough, I've got a colleague who just moved here from China, and I was shocked because they don't know the Isle of Man, and they said to me, I've just bought a bicycle. And I said, oh great, have you bought a new e-bike or whatever? And they said, oh no, I wouldn't do that on the Isle of Man because I've heard about all the bike thefts. And I thought, how sad is that for someone new to move to our island and have that point of view of the Isle of Man, that it's a place that isn't safe to have a nice bike.
Have you heard that?
Yeah, that was last week, yeah. That was a colleague of mine.
That's an interesting. I say that you're not impressed with the government that we're getting rid of. Have you got an idea who you'd like as your chief minister, on the basis that you have to, when you get in, if you got in, you would have to vote for maybe one or two or even three people that we put their names forward? Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm quite in a privileged position, I feel, because I've communicated with a lot of the MHKs that are already in. Some of them I've not had good communications with, some I have. June Watson's always been very good. I thought he would have been a good chief minister, but I know he's going for president. Mm-hmm. But he'll be a good president as well.
Who do you want?
I wouldn't want Alf Cannon.
Right.
I know he's gone for it.
Well, he's on the list like there is. I mean, Dr. Alex Allison's already said he's interested.
Yeah. The reason is I've made several communications with Mr. Cannon over the last year and a half, on behalf of other people, on behalf of charities as well, in regards to COVID support. He's not got back to me. Now, someone who ignores and turns their back on the voters, on the residents and people representing charities, I don't want someone like that to be representing our island.
Well, you might be going for a job in Treasury then, I take it, or whatever. No,
he might not be in Treasury.
No, he might not.
Yeah.
But you won't be working with him anyway.
No.
To finish with, is this you... Well, if you don't get in, would you be coming back again and again and again? Are we going to see you every by-election, everything? I mean, are you almost like obsessed with standing almost?
Do you know, it's funny because I'm not one of those people who sort of, as a kid, said, I want to be a politician. But I'm standing back and I'm watching what's going on, and I'm thinking, how can I not? If I feel like I can do a better job, which I do, because there's no common sense in the keys at the moment whatsoever, then I've got to try. If I didn't feel like I had anything to give, then I wouldn't bother.